Let's improve our doubles by practicing these 4 things. So doubles are often just weak bounces because you have a strong first stroke from the wrist, and then that second stroke kind of just bounces down weakly. But we want a much better sound than that. We want both strokes to be equally loud. Like, we want that second stroke to be just as beefy and loud as the first stroke, right? And to do that, we need help from our fingers, right? But before we can use our fingers, we have to build up some technique. So here are 4 things that you should practice to get to where you want to be. So number 1 is to always stay loose. No matter what you're playing, make sure that you're consciously thinking about this. You don't want to be gripping the stick really, really hard. Make sure to watch my hand technique video, and it'll go over some of these things we're going to talk about here. But don't be gripping the stick really hard. Make sure that you're staying loose. That's number 1. Number 2, bounce the stick. So you can call these rebound strokes, you can call them free strokes, but the idea is that you're able to throw the stick down, have it hit the drum, and it bounces back up to you without you pulling it up, right? And to do this, you need to make sure that you have a good fulcrum, right? Again, you're not squeezing really hard at that fulcrum point, but it's lightly holding the stick, and it's happening between your thumb and your first finger, or your thumb and your second, but I usually go thumb and first finger. So you're able to throw the stick down, it hits the drum and comes back up. And to start with this, just put on a metronome at 100 BPM and just do this with your fulcrums, right? You're not using your fingers yet. And you're just gonna just play quarter notes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you're alternating hands. Then when you're comfortable with that, play eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and at this point you're still just using your fulcrum. Right? And again, you're not pulling the stick up, you're letting it bounce back up to you. And when you have that down, then add your fingers back onto the stick and do the same exercise. And as you get comfortable with this, when you have control, go ahead and bump the metronome up by 5 or 10 each time. Just make sure you're not bumping up until you have control at a certain speed, right? So that's number 2, is bouncing the stick. Okay, step number 3 is to add fingers. So we're gonna start with our stick beads up, and we're gonna play an initial stroke, and it's gonna bounce back up, and then we're gonna grab the stick with our fingers and play another stroke. When we're playing at slow tempos, our stick beads are going to be up high, but as we get faster and faster, the stick beads will definitely come down. So let's start again at 100 BPM. With right hand, throw the stick down, it bounces up, and then use those fingers to play that second stroke. And again, here is where all of that work on step number 2, where you bounce the stick, is really apparent if you've really locked that down. Because if you have a good fulcrum, then your fingers, right, are going to be free to play the stick instead of holding onto the stick, right? And this is key. So again, as we get faster, so at 150, right, the stick beads are a little lower. 180, same thing, but it's still an initial stroke from the wrist, and then the fingers are coming in to play the second stroke. When we get faster than this, when we get into the 200s, the initial stroke for me starts coming from a locked forearm, right? And we talk about this with buzz rolls in the hand technique video, but it's like a stroke from the locked forearm, and then fingers play the second stroke. And the thumb also is there to apply downward pressure. So that changes a little bit, but it's all about that initial stroke from the wrist and then pull that second stroke with the fingers. And that makes it beefy. That second stroke doesn't just dribble down and kind of die off. Step number 4 is to invert it. So you can play right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, but you can also play right, left, left, right, right, left, left. And when you do that, that second stroke, it really can help you kind of pound down that second stroke with a lot of force and teach your fingers to do what they're supposed to do. So I've got an exercise on I've got an exercise to practice this over at tempoleague.com. You can start a free trial of my Better Hands course and check that out. Check out the exercise and all the other stuff I have there. And I think it'll really help you out. So thanks for checking this out. I sure hope you have a great week. Please comment below if these things are helping you out. If you have other tips, make sure to subscribe, and happy drumming.